Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited about the relationship that already started between Eritrea and Sweden, and we're hoping a lot of things will work out between both countries in terms of diplomatic relationships and common interests. Ladies and gentlemen, the two countries have a lot in common. I do believe the Eritreans have self-reliance ideology, non-interference ideology, peaceful coexistence, autonomous relationship based on the rule of law, common interest, equality, and bilateral connection. They are strong. They can influence a lot of nations in their region. I'm talking about they are influential factors. The Eritrean people are influential factors as a unit, okay? And the Eritrean government, of course, as an individual representative of the people, influential in East Africa because Eritrea is the most peaceful country. Eritrea doesn't have any terrorism records in the past. Eritrea secures its country, its nation, its boundaries, geographic boundaries safely and efficiently. The Eritrean people live peacefully within each other. They protect each other. I don't think there are too many crimes in Eritrea. The way I witnessed it, Eritrea is a very peaceful nation, and all the people depend on the safety that they give each other. They give that protection as a matter of cultural orientation and their experience in the struggle for their independence, ladies and gentlemen. Eritrea could be obstinate, but consistent, definitely consistent on its principles. Now going to Sweden, we're talking about a very peaceful nation known for its mediation characteristic, strong influential power within the European Union, believes in dialogue, okay, understanding rather than the power of the fist. Therefore, there is a lot of connection between the two countries, the way I look at it. Non-militaristic connection built on common understanding and common interests, ladies and gentlemen. Eritrea doesn't allow any power to have ports, not to have ports, actually to have base in the country. So it's not militaristically dependent on any other nation, as we know of. It's self-reliant. And Sweden is not militaristic as such. Sweden believes in peaceful connection, influencing each other with good understanding that benefit both nations, whatever the nation may be. Therefore, here there is a good connection between both of them. Eritrea doesn't want any military base in its country, and Sweden is very peaceful. So now they can cooperate on the common interest in the Red Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a beautiful video here. Let's follow it, and then I will comment wherever necessary. Found this one very interesting to share it with you because I'm very excited as a person. Seriously, it's about time for these two countries to understand one another and to let the past history of confrontation alone.
17th, 2025, Sweden's Foreign Minister Maria Malmer Stenergard quietly arrived in Asmara for a rare two-day diplomatic visit. She was received by Eritrea's Director General of the Desks Department, Estefanos Habtemariam, setting a formal but understated tone. The main event was a meeting with Eritrean Foreign Minister Osman Saleh, where they discussed bilateral relations and regional security, especially the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea. The agenda was tightly focused on mutual interests, with no attempt to resolve long-standing disputes. Stenergard also met with Eritrea's Minister of Labor and Social Welfare, Leol Gebrep, who outlined the country's social policies. This meeting offered Sweden a rare look at Eritrea's domestic priorities, broadening the visit beyond geopolitics. Notably, the visit ended without a joint statement, new agreements, or press conferences, underscoring the private, process-driven nature of the talks. No new aid or policy shifts were announced. The entire engagement was managed with discretion, highlighting that the main goal was to open dialogue, not to deliver immediate results.
I really appreciate that because they definitely have to create a room for connection first before they get deep into the matters of common interest. A very interesting move.
The visit's significance lay in its quiet, deliberate approach to re-engagement. This was the first visit by a Swedish foreign minister to Eritrea since its independence in 1993. For over 30 years, direct high-level contact was virtually non-existent, with communication limited to lower-level diplomats or multilateral forums. The visit marked a deliberate shift from public criticism to direct engagement, reflecting a pragmatic approach to regional stability and consular affairs.
Because there is no doubt there have been a lot of distortions about Eritrea by the opposition forces, so-called opposition forces that try to bring democracy, but they cannot make it because they don't have the ideological direction to go that route in. Politically speaking, I'm talking about the political science says that you can transform a society to democracy through incumbent transitional process. But the opposition force ignores that. Instead, they went into propaganda against the government. Propaganda, let's say, without connection, without solid connection with the people in Eritrea, and without understanding what they want, without finding out whether the people are connected with their government or not. You understand what I'm saying? So eventually, the opposition has collapsed because the Eritrean people depend on the government, good or bad. And this understanding is very necessary for the Swedish government because that is the history of all liberation struggle-oriented liberated countries, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Sweden's concerns over Eritrea's human rights record have long strained relations, but this meeting signaled a willingness to talk, despite deep differences. For Eritrea, hosting a senior EU official was a chance to assert its sovereignty and relevance in regional affairs. The visit allowed Eritrea to counter isolation narratives and present itself as open to dialogue on its own terms. Both sides used the encounter to recalibrate their diplomatic strategies without abandoning core principles. The meeting was a tactical adjustment, not a fundamental change in the relationship.
Well, but this tactical arrangement can go into strategic arrangement. There is no problem with that. Once they understand each other, once they recognize their principles individually, well, the next step is going to be to work on the certain things, that they both agree upon. Start with that, and then this tactical relationship can change its strategic in the long run.
Talks between the foreign ministers focused first on the state of bilateral relations, a foundational step after decades of minimal contact. They assessed existing ties, explored limited areas for cooperation, and set a baseline for future communication. The conversation then shifted to regional issues, especially the conflict in Sudan and its destabilizing effects on the Horn of Africa. Both countries have a stake in regional stability, though their approaches differ. Security in the Red Sea was a key topic, given its global trade importance and potential for wider conflict. Sweden, as an EU member, and Eritrea, as a Red Sea state, both recognize the corridor's strategic value. The discussions were exploratory, aimed at understanding each other's perspectives rather than forging new alliances.
It's beautiful. You brainstorm first before you go into details. And then at the end of the day, they will assertively conclude whatever they have been agreed upon, hopefully very soon.
The real value was in opening a direct channel for nuanced dialogue. The timing of the visit reflected the Red Sea's growing strategic importance amid regional instability. The war in Sudan and ongoing turmoil in Yemen have made the Red Sea a hotspot for global security concerns. Eritrea's long coastline and control over key maritime routes give it significant leverage in regional affairs. The Swedish visit acknowledged Eritrea's role as a gatekeeper in the southern Red Sea. As global powers vie for influence, European nations like Sweden are adopting pragmatic engagement strategies. Eritrea used the meeting to reiterate its preference for regionally led security solutions and opposition to foreign military intervention. The visit allowed both sides to advance their strategic narratives and recognize each other's importance in the regional security architecture. Quiet diplomacy here was an exercise in realpolitik, shaped by geography and necessity. The unresolved case of Dawit Isaac, the Swedish Eritrean journalist detained since 2001, loomed over the visit. His imprisonment remains a central issue for Sweden and a symbol of the broader human rights divide. While official statements were silent, it is certain that Minister Stenagaard raised Isaac's case in private talks. Sweden's strategy has shifted to quiet, persistent diplomacy, believing it.
I believe this is extremely beautiful approach. Dawit Isaac to come into the table was obviously expected because they have been trying to resolve the issue through diplomatic relationships, through quiet diplomacy for a very, very, very long time. And this journalist is a Swedish citizen from Eritrea origin. So it's obvious that they will have to talk about this, and it's expected. But extreme patience and an extreme common understanding is necessary in this situation. It's not about grudging it out like it used to be. It failed already. It's not about. Of course, human life is extremely important. The importance of this person's life, the journalist's life, to his family, and even to all of Eritreans and peace-loving human beings around the world, it is obvious. But yet, we don't know what exactly happened at that time. This is also very important to consider, considering the cultural attachment to this kind of issues, differing from country to country. Eritreans, especially the EPLF, as a new nation, a new country with a lot of problems from deep south, from the Ethiopians. So many issues were there at that point in time when Dawit Isaac was in trouble with the government. Therefore, good patience, humility, a little bit of understanding human suffering, and also resolving the problem, causing the fact that the person has been there for a very long time and has paid his dues for whatever he was accused by. So all this understanding should come now, very peacefully, with good understanding, with patience. And of course, we all wish something good happens out of this relationship in this aspect. But we have to be careful not to make it a permanent problem, a permanent obstacle that stands in between, like it did for the last 20 and over years in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, here we need to be very careful. It's a very sensitive issue to everybody, to the government of Eritrea as well, and to the Swedish government too, because a citizen of both countries is already in this kind of situation, and common understanding must be established. Therefore, we expect very modern, silent, quiet diplomacy to keep going in this issue. There are also a lot of things to be done in between that shouldn't be stopped because of this complicated problem, unfortunately.
It offers the best hope for progress.
Yeah.
Eritrea, as expected, maintained public silence, viewing the case as a sovereign matter. No breakthrough was announced, but the visit reinforced Sweden's commitment to Isaac's release at the highest level.
Well, this is very appreciated because excitement is not important as such. Okay, beautiful work can be done silently. Therefore, the Eritrean approach in this situation is good, it's welcome, and it's more of operation, as we know. That shouldn't be a problem at all.
The meeting demonstrated that despite shifting priorities, human rights remain a non-negotiable part of Sweden's engagement. The value lay in pressing the issue face to face, even without immediate results. The defining feature of the visit was its quiet, closed-door approach. Both sides deliberately avoided public statements and media spectacle, focusing instead on substantive dialogue. For Sweden, this marked a shift from public pressure to private persuasion, seeking results through direct engagement. Eritrea prefers this style, resisting what it sees as megaphone diplomacy and external interference. The format allowed for candid exchanges without the complications of public posturing. In such a strained relationship, simply talking at the ministerial level was a breakthrough. The visit created a mechanism for managing differences and continuing vital discussions on security and consular issues. It showed that when stakes are high, quiet diplomacy can be more productive than isolation. The December 2025 meeting was a carefully measured diplomatic step, not a dramatic breakthrough. Profound disagreements on human rights and democracy remain, but the visit signaled a pragmatic adjustment to new geopolitical realities. Sweden recognizes Eritrea.
So far, it's beautiful. Of course, human rights has to be a subject matter for every human being in on earth. Therefore, that's not new. We appreciating human rights all over the world. So the Swedish factorial here should be positively influence the Eritreans. There is no problem. They can do it with common understanding, let's say. And what we saw right now, Eritrean government do, releasing prisoners, religious affiliated prisoners and politically affiliated prisoners is a good sign that they can continue further. They can be influenced by Swedish soft pressure. I'm talking about amicable pressure to continue freeing people incarcerated by law or without the law. But the fact that the government initiated releasing prisoners is a very good opportunity for both countries to continue the bliss into more effect in this area, ladies and gentlemen. This is all beautiful brainstorming to achieve some common interests in between with patience, with silent diplomacy, without publicity, without imaging what is to be done. Substance is more important than image in this situation, and we appreciate
Unavoidable role in Red Sea security and regional stability. The quiet nature of the engagement allowed for honest dialogue without public pressure or unrealistic expectations. The main achievement was reopening a high-level channel after decades of silence. This is a beginning, not an end. Future progress will depend on whether this dialogue continues and yields results, especially on issues like Dawit Isaac. The visit was a single, calculated move on a long, uncertain path. It affirmed that, even in difficult relationships, direct diplomacy remains essential. In a turbulent region, talking quietly and directly may be the most important step of all.
I think it's going to be beautiful between both of them. I see a lot of things to change between the Eritreans and the Europeans in general through this connectivity. I just think some doors, closed doors will be opened in this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. They want regional stability to safeguard Red Sea, obviously, but that requires quietening the Ethiopian rhetoric against the Eritrean people. We Eritreans are psychologically frustrated, psychologically disturbed, basically, because our authority to control, to manage our country by ourselves is threatened by this bulletin in Ethiopia, and this has to stop. This has to stop. Sweden has to actually motivate the United Nations and the rest of the world to pressurize Ethiopia into accepting the Algiers Agreement so once and for all conflict, border conflict can be resolved. We encourage Sweden to encourage what's going on between the Tigrayans and Eritreans at people's level of connection. It's called Tsumdo, which means cooperation. And we, when I say we, many people like me, Okay, let me talk about myself. I expect Sweden to encourage this people-to-people relationship as much as possible, so effective peace in the region can be established. I accept Sweden to cooperate with Eritrea and Eritrea to cooperate with Sweden into solving the problem in Sudan. If we have to solve problems for the common interest, ladies and gentlemen, trust-building dialogues have to be continued. They have to continue. Clearly understanding common interests within their perspective, ideological. Okay? Is very important. What is the ideology of the Eritrean government versus the ideology of the Swedish government? Where do they meet? And how do those experiences intermingle into producing something substantial for the common, for common cause, for common interest, for common benefit? Meeting in the middle. Of course, they will have differences. The area experiences completely different. Ways they should think is completely different. They have been touching each other in the past, right or wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, the sanction itself was a frustrating event. It was a frustrating moment. All this grudge has to go. A new beginning, right and now. It better start right now. So where can they meet? In the middle. Of course, they have to meet in the middle. Different ideas can be entertained, but there is always a middle ground in logical duality, ladies and gentlemen. And then from listening, giving and taking. This is the issue that I understand. Dawit Isaac's life concerns us all, ladies and gentlemen, because he has a family. He's an Eritrean. Okay, he was supporting the Eritrean government. He was supporting, excited like us. Okay, during the Eritrean liberation, not only him, other journalists as well. Therefore, this may be the best opportunity for all of us to resolve this issue amicably. Okay, but without dictation. I'm talking about Dawit Isaac's life concerns us all, and we hope to achieve a spiritual solution out of this beautiful gathering, beautiful meeting, without making it a prerequisite for final agreement in between. Do you understand what I'm talking about? I'm saying, let us just be optimistic and let's just hope things will be resolved in between about this issue, knowing that it's very crucial human rights concern, but not only to Sweden, to all of us as well. Let's hope things will go in the right direction, ladies and gentlemen, and please subscribe. This is a new channel if you like it, and we're going to come. My mission here is to pacify situations between world conflicts. There is always a pacific way of resolving differences, ladies and gentlemen, if dialogue and patience are given a chance. Okay, let's just resolve issues amicably. Let's just communicate with spiritual energy to benefit human community. Globally, I'm talking about, therefore, this engagement is very exciting and we will follow it closely, and I hope it will continue into strategic relationship in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good day and God bless you for listening. And God help all the situation going on in between so we can hear more interesting news ahead. I'll see you next time. Make sure you live your life here and now. Do not hesitate living your life here and now, because that's all you got. Life is about here and now. Whatever is in the past and whatever is in the future, anticipated from the future, actually, they both converge in now. Now is a convergence point of the past and the future. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your life. Don't grudge things up. Don't be emotionally involved in many things as such. Look at everything as a drama. Try to put yourself into it. Try to produce something productive into any kind of deal that you see. Try to be a solution instead of a problem. Face a problem as it is. Accept it. trying to improve. That's all we got to do. I'll see you next time in the next show, and bless.
Thank you.